once again, back once again, back once again, back once again, back once again with a beat. Let the bass kick.
This is the Wisdom in All Things podcast, and it really is just an audio version of the article that you can have sent to you if you sign up for it, that is. Articles, other podcasts, the sign up for the email, it's all over at wisdominallthings.com. Today's podcast, a little bit James Bond, a little bit Clark Kent. For the last several years, it has been a tradition for our family to gather near the start of the new year, reflect on the good, the bad, the ugly from the past year. To that, we add the hope, dreams, and intentions of the next. Not quite resolutions, because we believe that there are better approaches to that. You can find that article at the Wisdom in All Things blog. But the recollection gives us a chance to revisit fond memories, recognize God's goodness, and then turn our attention toward what His goodness might look like in the year ahead. One conversation I had with my wife leading up to this annual sit-down with our boys to talk about the new year stirred up my thinking about what this blog means, what the podcast means, or at least what I hope it means. And then I started thinking of you and wondered how you might answer that question. The premise for Wisdom in All Things is that we could quickly understand and apply wisdom in all areas of our lives, mind, body, and soul. Because we don't have a lot of time, could it be delivered in the form of exposing a truth, exploring it biblically, and then succinctly executing on it, integrating it into our lives? What I hope you get with each post and podcast. But what does that look like? And to what end? In my conversation with my wife, I began to describe how ideally we would be the right blend of Clark Kent and James Bond. Sounds pretty cool, doesn't it? The kind, innocent, do-right character of Clark, coupled with the sophisticated, evil-destroying, innovative resolve of Bond. It was, after all, what Jesus, told his disciples. He said, "Be wise as serpents and innocent as doves." A little bit James Bond and a little bit Clark Kent. We read this in Matthew 10:16. It says, "Behold, I'm sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. So be wise as serpents and innocent as doves." What's it mean to be wise as a serpent? Well, the intentions of a serpent and the disciples differed greatly. It was the wisdom or prudence of the serpent that Jesus is commending. Their sharp powers of judgment guide their crafty, patient ways. Some translations of this verse use the word shrewd. As with 007, they too exercise their sharp wit to discern their environment for potential angles of attack or hasty retreat. And then innocent as a dove, like Clark Kent, a dove is pretty harmless, if not downright cowardly. It is this idea of doing no harm and being blameless or innocent that Jesus is highlighting. The disciples were to be characterized by purity, so that violence, malicious, or immoral behavior would not jeopardize their representation of God or fulfillment of their mission. Thomas Campbell says this, "The disciples' shrewdness must not be cunning, sinister, or dishonest, for they needed to be innocent as well. Either characteristic without the other is dangerous. Innocent without prudence becomes naivete. Be wise, be innocent, as you're kind of tossed into the midst of wolves." I think it goes without saying, the world we live in is increasingly wolf-infested and growing more so by the week. While we have our own challenges and opposition to face, one could argue that the disciples had it even worse. Setting aside their obvious lack of creature comforts and technological advances, they were surrounded by a hostile culture and government. I have yet to hear of anyone in these times threatened with being thrown to the lions. Regardless, we too are being sent out into this world such as it is, a world that is too easily influenced and growing more hostile and dangerous to the truth. It is precisely the kind of environment that requires the right blend of Clark Kent and James Bond, or should I say a wise serpent, innocent dove man, to exercise wisdom in all things. So as we start off the year, or you're just getting it going right now, I wanted you to have this context of what this is all about, this wisdom in all things is all about, this foundation, by providing you the end before you start or continue down this path of wisdom. The hope is that we become a whole person, fully engaged in and committed to how God has called us to live, seeking not what we get out of life, but what we can put into it. It's the Right Life Manifesto. You can read that too at wisdominallthings.com. So here's to the new year. Here's to wherever you're at. and the fact that you're going to grow more wise and innocent. Thanks for listening to Wisdom in All Things. Again, you can get the podcast, sign up for the email, other articles, more wisdom. It's all over there at wisdominallthings.com.